As Siege players, more often than not, we find ourselves playing with teammates that don't think twice about their operator choices. And then, before we know it, the match slips out of grasp and we're waiting for the sweet release from torture at match point. This is why I want to talk about how picking a role to make the right operator choices can seriously help you win, and how becoming a flex player helped me overcome loss after loss. So grab a cup of brine and a pickle, and let's talk about what the right skill tree is for you. If you've played Siege competitively for some amount of time, then I'm sure you've heard of the concept of having a role in a team. There are three main roles that make up any given team's composition inside Siege, those being 2 fraggers, 2 supports, and a flex player. In order to start finding out what your role is, we have to start developing your understanding of yourself as a player. We start doing this by assessing what your affinity and preference is for certain aspects of each operator, like weapon, gadget, and playstyle. The first thing you might ask yourself would be, what kind of gadgets do you like or tend to gravitate towards the most? If you could only use one gadget for the rest of your life, which one would it be? What would it look like, and what kind of utility do you prefer over others? For example, you could be a player who prefers gadgets that allow you to take map control more easily. This falls under operators like Ashe, Buck, or Ying. Or in terms of defending, maybe you're a player who likes to take advantage of an ambush, so you lean towards trap operators, or operators that counter intel like Vigil, Mute, and Solus. So now that you have an idea of what gadgets you tend to work best with, let's draw our attention to what weapons you prefer. Figuring out what weapons feel best to you based on recoil and attachments will all form the criteria that will find your role as a player. And lastly, and debatably the most importantly, is what your playstyle is. Are you an aggressive player who tends to stake more on taking fights with opponents? Or do you tend towards playing passiveness, waiting for your enemies to take a fight with you and getting the drop on them, while collecting intel for your team in the meantime? Or maybe you don't tend towards either, and you're more of a hybrid, using either playstyle when it's most needed. In the conclusion of this surface level assessment of your ideal role, we want to apply the criteria we just made to the various operators in the roster. By figuring which operators you have the highest affinity to, we can begin to understand where you best fit into your team's composition, and how you can contribute most to your team winning. Now, in order to further understand how we can all figure out our own roles, I want to take you back to last season, Operation Twin Shells, when I began to start figuring it out for myself. My goal at the start of the last season was to rank up into high plat and break into emerald if possible, with my focus being on how I can contribute most to my team in order to win more matches. Like most players, I thought that if I could contribute more kills to my team, we'd be able to win more matches. So this led me to focus heavily on what kind of weapons I'd do best with, and to base all my operator choices on that. Most of the time, I would stick to easy guns like Doc's MP5 and the AK-12 on attack due to me being able to frag out pretty well with these guns. Naturally, this led me to focus a lot on getting like the first pick in many ranked matches, / taking map control, just really focusing on killing people in order to get to site and plant the bomb. However, one problem began to spring up, and I wasn't sure what to do about it initially. Sometimes when I would encounter players as I was trying the entry frag roll, it would feel like I couldn't win the fight even if I felt like I was out-aiming them. I felt like no matter what, throughout the match, I couldn't do shit to these players, and really, I was just getting shit on no matter what, even if I felt like I was having good positioning and good aim. But during last season, I still managed to get to Plat 1, which was enough for me. So, towards the end of the season, I became less worried about wondering why I was losing fights to these players, and more just happy with the progress I had made. Now, as I headed into Operation Collision Point, as I played ranked at the start of the season, I had a pretty good start, starting with like around a 1.4 KD on average in most of the matches I played, which led me to finally reach Emerald. However, up to this point and beyond this point, I began to notice a weird consistency in my R6 tracker. Nearly every ranked match I play, I could see I was playing Emerald and Diamond players nearly every single match, which then began to lead me to lose more of these matches because of my mistake of staking my belief that I was fine as a player as long as I could out-aim the enemy, which I quickly realized was not going to help me win every round. The more I died to these players, the more I realized that I wasn't losing because I failed to aim. I was losing because, well, my game sense was ass. Every gunfight I take felt like a disadvantage. Sometimes it felt like no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't kill these players. That's definitely because I was relying way more on my aim instead of my game sense or developing my game sense, which led me into my next step of developing my role, which was switching my focus off of weapon ability to gadget ability, or in other words, putting more thought towards what operator I was playing and how they helped my team. Now, as I stated before, the only thing I was basing my operator picks on before was which weapon I enjoyed the most or felt like I could kill with the most. So, now being forced to not rely on my weapon as much, I was forced to try out lots of different operators to see what felt good to me. And this was a stage of lots of intense learning, as I learned that there's some operators where I felt like I was helping my team, while other operators felt like I was doing jack shit. Some operators like Ace allowed me to fulfill a very easy role while being able to hold my own most of the time with the AK-12, while other operators like Warden really left me quite clueless as to how I was supposed to help my team. As you know, I just kinda run off somewhere, wait for enemies to show up. Oh, okay, they're breaching on the other side of the map. Run over, and then die, because, you know, I wasn't thinking about how they could counter me, and only how I should counter them. Basically, this phase of trying a bunch of different ops taught me my strengths and weaknesses for certain operators. And I think this is a very important stage, like I said. My inconsistency throughout different operators taught me which gadgets I do better with when I rely on them more. So basically what I mean when I say I'm inconsistent on operator is I'm either not getting frags to help my team or using my gadget in a way that helps my team either. And I say inconsistent because trying this operator does not work as well as playing an operator that is easy to play or that I'm used to. I took each inconsistency at face value and decided I was better off being done with that operator instead of trying to learn how I could be using them better. However, this belief did not necessarily lead me in the wrong direction, as once I started doing this, I began to rely on a few operators I knew I could contribute consistently with. So I began to fall into a playstyle of just relying on my gadget to help my team, playing operators like Nomad to help the roam clear, and playing operators like Echo in order to assist roamers. Doing this began to give me a sense of an important principle that was crucial in later discovering my ideal role, and this is the principle of role balance in Siege. This is a pretty easy principle to understand, as pretty much you just want everyone on your team to be contributing in a unique way, and not having too many players doing the same thing. Basically, how I discovered role balance was by applying the idea, how can I contribute to help my team while my teammates contribute to my team winning? Which for me at the time basically just meant helping my roamers do better, or by anchoring sight if the roamers fail. By doing this, I began to get an idea of what it meant to play a meaningful purpose instead of playing the operator I wanted to and ending up overcompensating for a certain aspect of the team, like too many roamers, too many anchors, etc. However, sticking to this idea led me to the biggest roadblock in discovering my true role, which was the mental psychological aspect of being a hard-stuck support player. When I began to see that I could only contribute positive momentum to my team as a support player, I began to develop a sinking feeling within me that I was going to be stuck like this forever. Always in the back lines, helping the people in the action, getting more kills, while I played a passive role and really just kinda got carried along. Even though I was winning more matches, it didn't feel right to me. There was a part of me wanting to contribute more, but I didn't know how. So for a while, I would just stick to the way I knew how whenever I was playing ranked, being an intel support player.
Yo, bitches!
However, everything changed one day when I began to look at inconsistency in a new light. There was one downside from the inconsistency that I was using in the wrong way. And really all it was is that if I played bad on an operator, I took it as it was and just decided this operator isn't for me, it's the operator's fault, and I should just stick to what works. However, this ended up being a huge mistake, as it really just forced me into a passive play style, not taking as many gunfights, trying too much to rely on my gadget to help my team, instead of my entire capabilities. The inconsistency I was experiencing playing a new operator It wasn't an outright bad decision. The problem was that my operator picks were not consistently providing to the team's role balance, which was necessary for us in order to win the round. And to be honest with you, the whole reason why this problem was happening was because I do not play with a consistent 5-stack. How my ranked matches go is I look for a team on the LFG, meet a bunch of random players who are willing to communicate and try to win, and then do our best each of our given skills to overcome the other team and win. When I tried to take the straightforward path of playing the same role with each team each match, this would inevitably throw off the role balance of each team member and lead to inaccuracies and cause problems in certain rounds. So in other words, what I was doing was, support work, support win, I play support. Instead of asking myself, what operators does my team need in order to cover all areas of weakness? Once I had identified this problem, this is when I began to implement extreme adaptability into my decisions for which operator to play. AKA, I decided I was going to be a flex player. To put simply, a flex player's role is to fill the gaps within a team's composition. How this is done is by paying attention to what my random teammates pick, and then choosing an operator that either helps the support team fulfill their role, or an operator that helps the entry fraggers advance the site / clear out roamers. So as an example, helping the supports might look like gathering intel for them in order to make a push to site, while helping the fraggers would be like taking on a role like flank watch / using crowd control gadgets in order to allow the entry fraggers to get more kills. And helping either support or fragger role depends on the map and strategy being implemented for the given round. Now, almost as soon as I began practicing this role consciously, I began to learn way more from my mistakes that would cause me to lose gunfights or lose rounds. For example, let's say I was playing as a roamer holding vertical map control on a site in order to prevent attackers from gaining an advantage. But then let's say I made a mistake of staying on my cams too long while an attacker opened a barricade and pushed into the second floor. Unknowingly, I continue to hold my position, but then I am caught off guard by the attacker pushing in and then lose map control of vertical over site. It was moments like these that taught me the importance of providing undivided attention to my role and purpose in the round. So as I began to practice this role more, I realized I had a very good sense of what operators my team needed despite any composition. Even when I took on a very minimal role of intel support, I was beginning to win way more matches because I was allowing my team to do their thing while I took care of the role I chose and filled in the gap for. It began to teach me just how much influence I had over the outcome of a round, and it made me less reliant on my teammates' operator picks. I found out over time that I was the one who could help the most by taking a knee and playing the roles that not anyone else necessarily wanted to play or knew that was necessary. And now my understanding of everything outside of gunplay in Siege has exponentially increased and improved ever since I started playing this role. And instead of seeing my KD continue to plummet since the start of the season, I now find myself idling around a 1.0, which I'm not upset with because most of the time I do have to take a support role in the LFG as, well, to be honest, the only thing most players are interested in is fragging out and being, the GOAT. But to me, that's perfectly fine, because my goals of ranking up this game and one day hitting champion are now way more feasible, as I no longer feel like the boosted one on the team. Like, no matter the situation, whoever my teammates decide to play, I feel like I can make a confident pick in whatever will help our team be more likely to win. And so far, it's proven useful. I don't feel hopeless now whenever I lose on an operator I'm not familiar with. Instead, I take it as an experience to learn how that operator is applicable to any given situation, and learning which situations which operators are not a good choice for. If there's one thing I'm grateful for since becoming a flex player, it's how much it's improved my mentality towards losing in Siege or just dying straight up. Because now I see it as an opportunity to improve my skills in adaptability as a flex player. Now, I'm not saying everyone should be a flex player. If you're someone who mains Ash and you're able to take map control, frag out, then by all means, I think you should stay an entry fragger and continue to push that in your team. The reason I'm making this video is so that you can better identify which role you fall into while then applying the focus of this mindset of your role into your ranked matches as you play, which inevitably will teach you how to play your role better, more effectively, and lead to more wins. Now, to be honest, I don't see myself being a flex player forever, and I'm hopeful that the more I play as a flex player, the more I'll be able to develop my other roles, like being an entry fragger, support, more effectively, by gaining experience in many types of operators as a flex player. But at the moment, I'm quite happy being a flex player. I enjoy occupying the less straightforward role of being an adaptable piece for my team, compared to like entry, fragger, support, where the main idea of those roles is to play one exact purpose. Whether that means being a hard breacher, flank watcher, intel gatherer, anything that aids my team in coming closer to winning is very fulfilling to me, while simultaneously developing my skills in these many roles. And so far, I've managed to push up to Emerald 3 this season, and having high hopes of hitting Diamond for the first time before the season ends. But even if I don't hit Diamond this season, I'm confident that starting out as a flex player will inevitably develop my skills to be there very soon. And yeah, I think that's about it. I would say just try putting some time to think about what kind of role you want to play for your team, especially if you play in a 5-stack of your friends, as having a dedicated role for each player suited to their strengths will easily allow you to dominate most ranked lobbies up to like champion or something. But by all means, having a role is an extremely important component of Siege. And if you don't start thinking about it now, you will be forced to think about it at a later rank. So I hope you're able to learn as much as I did from this, and best of luck figuring out your role. Each player has a purpose in this game, and I know that you can find yours. So go find out what that means and start leveling your unique player skill set. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, Pickler. I hope my testimony shed some light on your path of improvement in Siege, and I hope that watching the vid was enjoyable and made your day even a little better. Anyways, I don't want to drag this out, so let's keep it short. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching. Your support means the world to me. I have a Twitch channel linked in the description where I stream 5 to 7 days a week, so go check that out if you want to support me further. With that being said, thanks for sticking around, and I'll see the Pickle Army in the next one. Peace, Picklers! Most of the time, I would stick to easy guns like Doc's MP5 or the AK. What is the name of Ace's gun in Siege? Coming to Operation Shattered, what's the latest season of Siege called? That being the inconsistencies